talked about creative writing in a passing remark, but a question was around how to move from formal writing to a bit of informal writing and then to be as creative as we possibly can be. So how to do that transition and probably when to do it.
Thank you. So, see, I think many of the questions are coming from an assumption that there is one way of doing things. And again and again, my response is there is no one way of doing things. There is one way that is best for you to do things, or there is one way that is best for me to do things, right? And the job, the task, the need of the hour is for you and for me separately to give ourselves the space to discover that which is most authentic for us, right? That's a very high level response. Now, even in terms of formal versus informal versus creative, it all depends on what is needed by the context, right? And really being aware to the context rather than having this preconceived idea that this is the best thing to do, really being humble enough and open enough to say, I don't know. Let me keep my mouth shut. Let me open my ears and let me listen carefully to what is wanted from this situation. What is the teacher saying? What is this journal saying? What is the judge saying? What is the opposing lawyer saying? What is the law firm partner saying? What is the collaborator saying? What are the guidelines for the essay contest saying? What is the mood problem? Let me actually listen very carefully. So listening and being open is always the first step in knowing what is the right style to adopt, right? And so rather than trying to plan and control, which is the old way of doing things, it's a very top-down authoritarian way. Trust yourself that I don't need to figure it all out in advance. Let me sense and respond, right? From planning and controlling, which is destined to fail because you cannot plan and control the unknown, the unplannable, the unknowable, right? You don't know what the judge wants tomorrow. You don't know what kind of short article in the newspaper will do the job of sort of striking at the root of the conscience of the prime minister or the Supreme Court. You don't know that in advance. So to really know what style to adopt, you really need to sense, to listen, and then respond, right? And this applies to reading, to writing, but it also applies to speech, right? And therefore, I use these words like text and writing as in a very, very expansive way. Everything in the world is a text. Even your actions are a text that could be interpreted by someone else, right? And some post-structuralist philosophical approaches will think of the word text like that. I won't go into that for the moment. So even before you say anything in the context of you're a litigating lawyer, or you're a moot court participant, or you're just a student in a classroom responding to something someone said, actually listening to what the situation requires is essential, right? And then you know, hey, I need to be really formal here. Hey, I can be informal here. Hey, what is really required here is a creative style, right? So that's the major part of the answer. The one other point to mention, I see that some of you all are raising hands, etc. So I'll encourage you for the moment to just keep putting your comments and questions into the Q&A box. The other part is to actually listen to what is authentic to you. Are you by nature someone who likes to be slightly formal? Do you have a very logical, structural approach to making an argument? Do you want to bring in creativity? And so these two parts, listening to what the situation requires and being true to yourself, giving expression to what is already within you. When they combine, they allow you to know exactly how to represent yourself, right? And this is not easy. So the easy answer to the question is, don't worry so much. Do what you want to right now and learn from the experience, right? It's okay even if a teacher screams at you and says, boss, how dare you put one poetry into your project topic? This is not a joke, right? Have an answer. Stand up and say honestly, bravely, I put a poetry because I think the poetic language better expresses the very sublime element that I'm trying to capture here, and analytical text will not, right? And see what your teacher says then. So at this moment, you should experiment, because I'm not sure whether all of you know what is your natural style, right? And unless you experiment, you'll never know what is your natural style, right? I'll never know whether I'm a good dancer because I'm terrified of dancing, right? So one day I have to overcome that and I have to try to dance, and then I'll know that I'm not a good dancer, and then I can safely give up, right? But with your writing style, you'll never know if you're good as a interdisciplinary writer. Are you good as a pure interpretivist writer? Are you good as someone who brings in the humanities, the literature into writing, right? And finally, don't listen to what Abhay says or what anyone else says, right? Listen to what feels good as you're doing it, as you're writing it, as you're researching. If this feels authentic, that is a good sign that you are doing what you are good at doing and what you want to do. And then, of course, be very open to seeing what the situation tells you. I mean, the whole point of learning from failure is you don't repeat the failure, right? So the next time you succeed because you've learned from your earlier failure. So maybe the first time going and telling a judge that, hey, judge, can I tell you a song, results in the judge yelling at you and humiliating you in open court, right? And maybe you feel terrible that day, but now you know that you're never going to go to that same judge again and say, hey, judge, can I offer you a song, right? That there you probably have to be very, very formal. And the same kind of logic will apply even to writing. And so get over this idea that there is only one chance to get it right and you need to know the right answer. There are hundreds and thousands of chances, right, of publishing your writing. There's no shortage. So feel free to experiment, feel free to fail, and definitely learn from the failure.